Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. We'll keep you updated on all the free agent happenings. Going to have analysis of all their free agent signings and then obviously some of the key re-signings as well, the pros and the cons for each move. That'll be on the Commanders page on ESPN. And just so go there, you can find information on every NFL team by going over there and staying updated on all the free agent action around the NFL. As you know, the legal tampering period begins at noon Eastern time on Monday. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an update going into this period. Kind of a bonus podcast, wasn't sure. I am expecting that whatever moves they make, I'll wrap them all up Monday night. And we'll keep doing this every day until when it warrants. So, just stay tuned for all that. And there's a possibility of a live stream show on Tuesday night, but I'll let you know tomorrow night about that, or excuse me, Monday night about that possibility. So anyway, in a couple minutes, I'm going to talk about when you look at like Washington certainly wants to get an edge rusher in free agency. There are four options right now that I think are probably their best options right now. So I'm going to take a look at each one of those, and there's pros and cons to each. There's also the draft, but I think they would like to get one of those big holes filled, and left tackle would have been one. Some of the best left tackle, I think, options are off the board now, including Ronnie Stanley, who re-signed with Baltimore on Saturday. That was a guy that I know they definitely would have liked. A few other teams would have as well. I don't know that they would have gotten him, but they certainly would have liked him. And I think they'd signed him, they could move Brendan Coleman, whether inside or to right tackle. That was going to be an option for them. So just stay tuned for that. There is Jalen Moore from San Francisco, is a guy that Adam Peters knows, filled in for Trent Williams this year. Is he a guy? I think he's pretty good, or he's good, but to what level? Like, we'll see. And he's inexperienced at that. So, but he'd be adding another young piece to the offensive line. And I think they could use that as well. So anyway, stay tuned for all that. Today, before I get to the DNs, though, just a couple more things. Looking at the Commanders' own free agent, Zach Ertz, of course, re-signed on Saturday, a necessary move. It was very good for Jaden Daniels last year, not just as on the field, but off, just in terms of preparation, the communication between the two. And I think they meshed very well. He was a good security blanket on the field, but a valuable resource as well, just like Bobby Wagner and a bunch of others for Jaden, who really pays attention to what the veterans have to say. So I just think that says a lot about him, but it also says a lot about these veterans. So just a key piece to resign. Also, Ben Sinnott isn't ready to take over that role. They needed to get somebody in here. They needed to keep Ertz around, see if Sinnott can develop into that down the road. So anyway, good resigning. As far as some of the others, I thought, as I taped this Sunday night, I thought Trey would get done today. Hasn't gotten done as of this taping. We'll see what happens there. Jeremy Chin, they have told him they would like him back, but it also seems like they're willing to let him test the market. The same is true of De'Ami Brown and certainly a few others. Dante Fowler among that. John Bates is one that I think paying attention to because he's a guy that gives you something that not many other guys can do. So I think that's something he's one to pay attention to as well. So anyways, Myles Garrett, of course, off the board. I don't know really how much he was ever on because Cleveland did not seem inclined to trade him. So, but wanted to talk about him because it's an option. Anytime something's out there and you don't know. And I also know that this team would have been interested in him. So you talk about it, even if it wasn't a highly realistic option, but it was certainly something that they were talking about. So we talked about as well. So anyways, as far as the defensive ends, obviously this team needs to get better stopping the run. We know that. Like, they were one of the bottom 5 teams against the run. Not many teams who are in that range end up to be consistently good. So they have to improve against the run. But the number one thing that Dan Quinn wants from his defense is, one, finding a guy who can affect the passer. That's a big one. And then also more takeaways. So whatever helps you get there. So while stopping the run is very important, and you look at the top defenses here, they stopped the run. Philly was 10th in, I think, yards allowed per, maybe 9th or 10th in yards allowed per game, and 9th or 10th in rushing yards per carry. So they're very good against the run. And that's partially why they were able to win a Super Bowl. And you look at the teams at the top, they're all really consistently good. You want to get higher up on that board if you're Washington. But I think, again, like Quinn said, the number one thing that he's looking for, who can affect the passer, who can help you take the ball away. So anyways, so with that being with all that in mind, like let's look at the four options. Number one, trading for Trey Hendrickson. Pros. One of the best pass rushers he is the best pass rusher available right now. He's had in the last 5 years since he's been, or 4 years since he's been with Cincinnati, or no, last 5 years, including his last year in New Orleans. He is the NFL. He has the third most sacks in the NFL, trailing only T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett. Those three are separated by like 3.5 sacks. After that, there's nobody within, I think it's 15 to 20 of those guys. Wait, no, I think it's like 17 sacks behind Hendrickson. So, like, in other words, those three are head and shoulders above in terms of sack totals than anybody else during that time. In the last 2 years, nobody has more sacks in the NFL than Trey Hendrickson. He definitely affects the passer. Cincinnati did not have to use um, a lot of extra rushers to pressure the passer. Most of their sacks came off four-man rushes. Conversely, with Washington, most of their sacks came off of sending an extra pass rusher. So that would give them the ability to use a lot of four-man pressures, which of course then allows you to use more in coverage, which is where they had a bigger issue for sure. He changes that pass rush. He's a very, very good pass rusher, and I don't think there's any doubt about that. And it certainly one the beauty of a guy like Hendrickson is he's still like he'll be 31 this year, but he can still play at a certain level for the next several years. And he gives you a guy that has that contract that you can take advantage of because Jaden Daniels, of course, is on that rookie quarterback contract. This is not just a win in 2020, 2025 situation. You can anticipate, you can assume, they hope that Hendrickson could rush at a certain level and play at a certain level for the next 3 years. So he's in that window of opportunity for sure. So that's one of the benefits of him. Listen, man, there are a couple cons here, though. What is the cost? Because if you're having to give up too many draft picks and then shell out $35 million, which may be what it takes after you see Myles Garrett get 40, he's not going to get Myles money, nor should he. But you're having to give up a lot of cap space and then draft picks to get him. Now, right now, it sounds like Cincinnati's going to want a lot because why wouldn't you ask for a lot right now? There's no deadline for them at this point. And it could well be that those those sides still work something out. But let's say the Bengals want a first and a third. I don't know what the price is, but if it's high right now, then if you're Washington, you have to really, really think hard about doing that because to me, that's an awful lot of resources to spend for one spot, and then you're not allowed because like even with Trey Hendrickson, they have to make other moves to get better, and you still want to get this roster. They need some youth on this roster. You need some youth on that offensive line. You need some more young guys to develop on the defensive line. The Eagles have done that. Like that is the model franchise for how to build a roster. So does this help you do that? Again, it puts you in a spot where you certainly will be better with Trey Hendrickson. But what's the cost? And I think that's the big thing you have to ask yourself. And again, then the team is just certainly getting older with them. And let's say it costs 2 draft picks. Well, now you're down to 4 draft picks in this draft, if that's what it takes. 3 of which right now are 7th round picks. So that's the number one thing that you'd say, like, but again, he's a really, really good player. But what's the cost? Could you get him for a 3rd round pick and change? Is it going to take a second? Do you have to throw in the first? If you're throwing, there's a lot to weigh there. I think it could become prohibitive for sure. So that is a definite option, and they are certainly interested in Trey Hendrickson. So one to monitor, but there are a lot of teams that are waiting to see what happens that are interested in Hendrickson. So which could also drive up the price. And, I think that's, again, what you have to weigh. Number 2 option, signing Khalil. And I'm not necessarily putting these in order, but I do think number 4 to me is the lowest, is not the number. It's the number 4 option for sure. I think, to be honest, I think the best signing might be Khalil Mack because you get a guy who's still playing at a high level. He only had 6 sacks last year, also playing with a groin injury. And you watch his film early in the year versus late, it seems like you can see the effects of that on him for sure. So, but again, he's an older guy and mid-30s. Those guys, what are you going to get out of him? And it would only be for 1 year. But you watch him play, The effort is there. He's relentless. He's a really good run defender as well. Hendrickson, by the way, one of the cons, not a consistently strong edge setter against the run. So you still have to find other guys there to improve in that category. But again, affect the passer, yes, but affect the run game. That is not what Hendrickson is known for, and he's going to get paid because he can get to the passer. But for this defense, also needs more help against the run, and that's where you need to put some resources as well. But with Mack, good against the run, still really good as a pass rusher, and again, just relentless, gives you a ton of energy and effort. I think he would fit certainly with what they want to do. He would cost only cap space, and I don't think he's not going to cost high-end defensive end money because mid-30s, man, you're just coming off, has had the groin. Guys don't get healthier as they get older necessarily. So you just you concerned a little bit about that, but it would also drive his price down and it would allow you to then still spend on something else, but also keep your draft picks and allocate those resources to some young guys. If you go out and get Khalil Mack, to me, I'm going to go out and draft a defensive end that you can develop. Why? Because defensive ends take a few years to develop. And if that's the case, then you can go out and get a Khalil Mack. You've got a guy for now, and then you have a guy in your system that if you develop him right, if he develops, then he's ready to go next year, year after as a stronger pass rusher and still taking advantage of that Jaden Daniels window with the contract. So, or getting a guy in there and then you can spend somewhere else too. Anyways, but that's the beauty of Khalil Mack. I think that's not a bad option at all, folks. To me, that may be the best one, depending on his price as well. The negative is mid-30s, and to me, you would definitely still need to find someone else. Otherwise, you're going to be looking for a defensive end next year as well. And I like what Javonte Jean-Baptiste did, but he's not. I don't. If he was viewed as the guy that could really ascend to that level, then I don't think they're going to be aggressive pursuing some of these defensive ends like they will be. Los Angeles, I think, from my understanding, Khalil Mack is building a home out in Beverly Hills. Would he want to come this far east? I don't know, but I do think that he's a guy who would fit who they are, what they want to be, and also still affect the passer and play well against the run. He is still a good player for sure. So, anyways, that's on Khalil. Let's look at Dayo Odeyingbo. Excuse me, it's Dayo Odeyingbo. So with the Colts. Now he's a guy. So this is one of the ones that to me is interesting because going into free agency, kept hearing the Frankie Louvu types, Tyler Biadasz, Dorrance Armstrong. He kind of fits that bill, right? He's a young guy. He's only 25 right now. I think he'll be 26 in the season. I think he turns 26 in September. So, but he's that guy that's a young guy who's is he an ascending player? So I think that's one that would make him attractive. He would not cost as much as some of these others because he just doesn't have the resume as these other guys. So, he's a physical player. He's got good length. He's 6'6", 280, something like that. So he can definitely help you in multiple ways. Better as a pass rusher, can help you against the run as well. He can rush inside. And, I think it's funny because in 2023, really good pass rusher inside playing. He lined up all over the place. 3 technique. He shoot in some pass rush situations over the nose. So he gives you that option, some versatility, some flexibility with how you want to build your pass rush. I mean, man, you put him inside on some of those third down situations. Then you got Louvu and Wagner with some blitz action. You can really create some havoc doing that. So I think he offers you, but he's a young guy who that they would hope if you sign him that you feel is ascending. He has not hit his prime yet. So you could get a guy who offers you something for sure. And I think that's why he would be attractive. And he again, you would hope you saw the problem. I don't know that you're getting necessarily a game changer. Like I think Mack could be, Trey Hendrickson could be, but you would get a good player and you can build well, with good players. I think you'd still want to go out and get some others who can affect the passer, but I think he gives you another guy who could help you in multiple ways. It's only 16 career sacks. It's 11 in the last years. He went from 8 to 3 this year. But again, I do think he's a guy that is certainly one to watch. You've probably heard his name a few times with some others. But again, not as expensive. Then you can still build with, you definitely get younger on that defensive line with him. And you hope that you get a guy that is just getting into his prime and becomes more down the road as he, just because of that. So that to me would be a good option as well. And I think the other one, and I put this number 4, and I would I didn't necessarily put the first couple in a certain order, although I think Mack might be the best way to go just because of if you get a young guy in here to develop, and then if the price for Hendrickson is too much, if it's one pick and maybe one in the 2026, okay. But anyways, it's all dependent for him on the cost. But for Josh Sweat from Philly, to me, listen, you're getting a solid pro if you get him. He's in his later 20s, so you're getting a guy that you know who he is and what he does. He's 33 sacks the last 4 years. He's been a consistent pass rusher in that way. Good length, 6'5", 265. So I think that's all good. Good mix with a guy who can help against the run as well as against the pass. Coming from a winning situation, clearly knows what it takes to win. Had a terrific Super Bowl. The hard part is, he's playing with an unbelievably good defensive line. That's going to help him. I think did he make them better or did they make him better? And I think you'd have to look at and say, when you're playing with those guys, you're going to get more opportunities, right? And I don't know that I see him as a game changer. I know he had a really good Super Bowl, but is he the kind of game changer they need, or just a piece that you would want? Now, again, with him, it's all about cost. When I talk to people about him, it's like, hey, he's good, but is he worth the cost? And if you have to pay more than 18.5, 20, whatever, I think then you're getting like, okay, is there another option? Because I still think you're going to have to do things to help that pass rush. Whether, was it Milton Williams inside? I know, who's also with the Eagles, but you have Johnny Newton inside, but you want another guy inside, another young guy inside to pair. Where is the money best spent? Again, just think of guys who can affect the passer. Again, I think Sweat is a good player, but would you be paying way more than what you should to considering the level he's at? Again, with Dayo, he'd be a guy that's going into his prime. Mack has been a guy that exactly what you're getting at a higher level, right? And I think he can change things more. And same with Hendrickson, again, just depending on the cost. So with Sweat, is he that guy? And I think that's the one where, and I know people have said, well, you weaken Philly. He's leaving anyway. So if he comes here or somewhere else, Philly's losing him. And again, I think he's a good player, but at what cost? And I think that's always the key. So of these options, is he the top one? I don't think so. But let's see what the cost would be if they end up going that direction. So anyway, folks, that's just a quick rundown on what you can what just of this defensive end class. They definitely want to improve there. I think they'd obviously like to attack on the offensive line. I just wonder what's still out there for them at that position. So, or to do it in free agency versus the draft. So, and which is why you may want to hold on to those assets depending. And that's why if you can find a defensive end in another way without having to give up too many assets or all those assets, you may be better off. But we'll see what happens. There's pros to each one of these, and each one of these can help, but we'll just see where it goes. Anyway, folks, let me know what you'd want to do in the comments on the YouTube page. And I'll talk to you very soon because it's kicking off Monday at noon, folks. Talk to you soon. I'll talk to you probably later on Monday. Thanks for tuning in, as always.